Thank you. Distinguished guests, please remain standing. The Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga, Justice Mandisa Maya, will now constitute the congregation.
By virtue of the powers vested in me as Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga, I hereby declare the congregation of the university duly constituted for the purpose of the inauguration of Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa as the Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the university. Please be seated. I call upon the Chair of Council, Mr. Sabelo Mashlalela, to present his welcome address.
Program Directors, Mr. Ubisi and Dr. Tite, and Madam Chancellor and Chief Justice Mandisa Maya, Honorable Tembi Gadimeng, Minister of Human Settlement, the Premier of the Mpumalanga Province, Honorable Mandla Ndlovu, Honorable Chairperson, Tebu Hulitsie, and Honorable Members of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, our guest of honor, Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the University of Mpumalanga, Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, Hoshi Mkwena, Chairperson of the Mpumalanga House of Traditional Leaders and Khoisan Leaders and Executives present here, senior officials from the Department of Higher Education and Training representing the Honorable Minister Utima Namela, the Director General of the Mpumalanga Provincial Government, Ms. Magis Kosana, Dr. Matthews Posa, Dr. Ruel Kosa, MECs and heads of departments of the Mpumalanga government, executive mayors and municipal managers of our municipalities, government officials, chairperson of councils and vice-chancellors from various universities, the Meyiwa family, the Shongwe family, captains of industry and business executives, traditional leaders, Samakosi, religious leaders, members of the media, Professor David Mabunda, the former chairperson of the University of Mpumalanga Council, UMP Council, staff and students, distinguished guests, friends, and ladies and gentlemen, all protocol observed. Sanbonan, Lochan, Aushin, Dimadikwan, Dumelang, Molwen. Good afternoon. This is the day the Lord has made. We'll rejoice and be glad in it. We're gathered here today to experience a historic moment in the academic life of the University of Mpumalanga. It is truly a great honor to welcome you to this beautiful day, to this beautiful institution. On behalf of Council, I'm pleased and honored to welcome you to this important and historic occasion to inaugurate Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa as the Vice-Chancellor and Principal of the University of Mpumalanga. Guided by our institutional statute and policies, the appointment of Professor Meyiwa was as a result of a vigorous selection process that we undertook over a period to find a suitable candidate. Professor Meyiwa brings a wealth of experience and expertise to the role, and having previously served in various academic leadership roles in the higher education sector. During a tenure, Professor Meyiwa will be responsible for providing strategic leadership for the university's overall functioning and continued growth. We believe that we have opened a new chapter to build on the success that we have had since the inception of the University of Mpumalanga in 2013. As Council, we commit to fully support Professor Meyiwa and the management of the university in our pursuits to actualize our Vision 2030. Distinguished guests, UMP envisions to be an African university leading and creating opportunities for sustainable development through innovation. Our mission is to offer high-quality educational and training opportunities that foster the holistic development of students through teaching and learning, research and scholarship, engagement in collaboration with strategic partners. Madam Vice-Chancellor, having started your 5-year tenure on the 1st of October 2025, you have truly demonstrated that collaboration is the new currency for progress. In a short space of time, the university has moved with speed to unlock strategic partnerships that are vital to achieve our Vision 2030. Madam Vice-Chancellor, we trust that under your leadership, UMP will continue to actively seek out opportunities for collaboration with all its stakeholders in maximizing the development of human potential and socio-economic development for this province, this country, and the African continent. Madam Vice-Chancellor, we trust that under your leadership, UMP will continue to acknowledge our ever-changing knowledge and contexts and foster adaptability. Madam Vice-Chancellor, we trust that under your leadership, UMP will continue to be an entrepreneurial inclined institution to ensure that our graduates are relevant and competitive in the labor market. Madam Vice-Chancellor, we trust that under your leadership, UMP will ensure that by 2030, it has established a prevailing research and innovation culture and is developing research excellence in selected niche areas and has established functional research support systems. May you lead the project of broadening access to higher education and promotion of holistic student development. May you lead the project of sound financial management and institutional sustainability. As I conclude my welcome remarks, I must indicate that the road ahead will not be without challenges. There will be uncomfortable moments. There will be moments of difficulty. However, you can always count on us as Council and the UMP community to work with you in a truly collegial manner to navigate the storms. Distinguished guests, thank you for accepting our invitation. Welcome to the University of Mpumalanga. I thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson of Council, for the welcome address. We will now invite the choir to perform one item.
We shall now proceed with the inauguration of the Vice-Chancellor and Principal. I now request the Chairperson of Council, Mr. Sabelo Mashalela, to introduce the Vice-Chancellor and Principal, Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, to the congregation.
Madam Chancellor, in accordance with the relevant provisions of Higher Education Act of 1997 as amended, and the Statute of the University of Mpumalanga, the Council of the University of Mpumalanga has set the process in motion for the appointment of the Vice-Chancellor of the University. It now gives me great pleasure, to present to you, Madam Chancellor, and to all those present, the academic and professional history of Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa. Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa is the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga, a position she assumed on the 1st of October 2025. She is an accomplished feminist scholar, academic leader, and a researcher with extensive experience in higher education, governance, research leadership, and institutional management. Prior to her appointment at the University of Mpumalanga, Professor Meyiwa served as a Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research and Postgraduate Studies, Innovation and Commercialization at the University of South Africa from 2018 to 2025, where she was part of the university's executive management and led strategic initiatives in research development, postgraduate education, innovation, and knowledge commercialization. Professor Meyiwa has held several senior leadership and academic positions across South Africa's higher education sector. She served as institutional research registrar from 2014 to 2018. Research Director for Education and Skills Development at the Human Sciences Research Council from 2012 to 2014. As a research professor at Walter Sisulu University from 2010 to 2011, and a director of the Center for Gender Studies at the University of KwaZulu-Natal for a decade. Across these roles, she has demonstrated strong leadership in academic governance, research development, and institutional transformation. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts degree from the University of Zululand, as well as a BA Honours, Masters of Arts, and Doctor of Philosophy degrees in Feminist Oral Studies from former University of Natal, now the University of KwaZulu-Natal. She also holds a Master's of Commerce degree in Organizational and Systems Management from the University of KwaZulu-Natal and a 3-year teaching diploma from the former Indumiso College of Education. Professor Meyiwa's research interests broadly encompass contemporary human behavioral patterns with particular focus on the cultural construction of gender, action research, indigenous knowledge systems, and the impact of HIV/AIDS on parenting and family structures. She has supervised and graduated more than 40 master's and doctoral students and co-authored several books and published numerous research articles and book chapters. She has also presented widely at national and international conferences. Beyond academia, Professor Meyiwa has contributed significantly to public and civil society institutions. He has served on several national and community bodies, including the National Heritage Council and the South African National Heraldry Right Council, where she served as chairperson. She is also an advisory board member of the Rural Women's Movement. Her work reflects a sustained commitment to social justice, gender equality, indigenous knowledge, systems, and community engagements. As an activist, demonstrating significant leadership in health and human rights, Professor Meyiwa led a project spanning 10 countries that focused on fulfilling the reproductive rights of women affected by HIV/AIDS. She is currently leading research and advocacy efforts to combat the forced and coerced sterilization of women living with HIV in South Africa. That is about it.
Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, inasmuch as the Council of the University of Mpumalanga has appointed you in terms of the relevant provisions of the Higher Education Act of 1997 as amended and the Statute of the University of Mpumalanga, and inasmuch as you have accepted this appointment, I have pleasure in announcing that the powers, rights, and oh my goodness. Is it? Ihleli. Just push it down, push it down. Yeah, that should be, is it fine? Okay. To our new Vice-Chancellor in Principal, Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa. The new Vice-Chancellor in Principal, Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, will now address the congregation.
Wow. Chancellor and the Chief Justice of the Republic of South Africa, Justice Mandisa, Honorable Minister Thembi Nkarimeng, Minister of Human Settlement, Ms. Simelane, Premier of the Mpumalanga Province, Honorable Mandla Ndlovu, Chairperson of the UMP Council, Mr. Sabelo Mahlalela, and members of the UMP Council, Chairpersons of Honorable councils around the university, the universities, chairperson and honorable members of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Khosi Matuba Lamek Mukwena, chairperson of the Mpumalanga House of Traditional and Khoisan Leaders, and the president of the Congress of Traditional Leaders of South Africa, senior officials from the Department of Higher Education and Training, representing the Minister Buti Manamela, Director General of Mpumalanga Provincial Government, Manamela, Director General of Mpumalanga Provincial Government, Ms. Maggie Skosana, Mike Dege, CEO, heads of departments of the Mpumalanga Provincial Government, executive members of our municipalities, government officials, fellows that are within our USAF board, being led by USAF Chair, Professor Peterson, my fellow Vice-Chancellors, Deputy Vice-Chancellors, captains of industry and business executives, traditional leaders, religious leaders, members of the media, UMP management staff, and students, distinguished guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, the Shongwe family, my family, Abagwa Gumbi, Abagwa Meyiwa, Abagwa Magwaza, the four program directors that we have this afternoon, Molweni, Tobelang, Avwan, Lochan, Huyemdach, good afternoon, Sanbonani. This is a story. I'm taken back to Emahlongwa, the Durban South Coast, when I'm standing before you this afternoon. My grandmother ushered me into the world through the wonder and force of stories and storytelling. This is the force of unforgettable images, uplifting tales of adversity, courage, and the joy of resilience. But more importantly, the vitality of lessons about how to pursue best actions for me and my community were ingrained in me back then, tied with cautions on how we walk in that search for a better life without losing our humaneness. Today, this is a story of a chain of inspired visions of success of South Africa's humanity, which culminated in a home of Africa purposed higher education at the University of Mpumalanga. These visions were kept alive by resolute women and men who had confronted pain and storms of a dehumanizing political history. Between 1996 and 2013, those visions were rekindled at the land of the rising sun here, to embody the intent to seize the dawn of possibilities and success through an excellent education of many Black South Africans. Victory was witnessed. In 2014, the victory was witnessed as the first group of UMP students marched into one of two universities in post-apartheid South Africa. This is also a story of one of the youngest members of this community, youngest members of this community of leaders of the Vice-Chancellors, and I have my Vice-Chancellors with me here. Ngiyabonga bantakwethu. And I'm doing this with I dare to stand on the shoulders of Professor Andy Mukhatlane, who graciously agreed to come out of retirement in 2013 to lay the foundations of administrative and academic systems of UMP to begin its rise as one of the post-apartheid universities. I dare to walk in the light kindled by Professor David Mabunda, the first chair of council and his team, pointing for us paths towards excellence. I honor the efforts of nurturing UMP's administrative and academic projects from 2014 onwards in the hands of the giant Professor Thoko Mayekiso. I still can't master words, ladies and gentlemen, of deep gratitude to the D-head for the continued commitment to provide resources for new infrastructure, as you may have seen part of it, and the related initiatives at UMP. We are sheltered beautifully. We know this because the quiet envy of our many guests from other universities is often betrayed by their glowing compliments. But most importantly, I dare to walk among the people, women and men of the UMP community, at the front carrying the mantle of our aspirations. I dare to walk at the front fully aware that I am but a custodian of the wealth of intellectual imaginations and spiritual explorations towards excellence. I honor you because I lead fully aware that a single person alone does not make a clan. And I thank UMP Council for believing in me. Believe in dialogues that are built in integrity, to disagree humanly, to collaborate, to differ, to being, and to become, and to ultimately be adaptable. This also means that I should continually encourage creative engagement if I seek to bring the broader UMP community along in the task of sustaining UMP as a relevant incubator of economic, political, and human excellence for the present and for the future. And so, please allow me a moment of reflection. As a new Vice-Chancellor, I stand in front of you conscious of the expectations that this talk ought to entail, possibly a laundry of list of achievements in the past 10 months and of future strategies and aspirations. Yet, as UMP, young and growing African university, which aims to be future fit or relevant, as one of our values says, we ought to view our teaching and learning, our research trajectories, our engagements, and institutional culture as unavoidable, entangled with human society in which we continue to evolve. Triggers suspicions, optimism, and even resignation as humanity marches triumphantly in what is believed to be the height of human achievement in the entire history of human civilization. We see self-driving cars, tightly integrated information technology ecosystems that provide convenience in retail, in banking, in travel, etc. Our tasks as Vice-Chancellors are made increasingly lighter and as universities due to seamless workflow designs as well as faster access and organizations of data, of research data, because of have been transformed by sophisticated social media platforms offering real-time personalized news feed, quick messages, quick responses. It seems easy, yeah. How is it then, at this moment of triumph, scientific excellence, that we seem incapable to live together and thrive? It is as if we forgot how to be human. Is this height of human achievement also not much poorer, despite its glory? Every day our public discourse is bombarded with news of persistent conflicts that intensifying in brutality, in examples of the Middle East, Ethiopia, and Sudan, just to name a few. We hear drums of new conflicts fueled by seemingly impossible dialogue, ideological differences, and matters of simple conviction. Sharp anti-immigrant bitterness within all of that, and the ability to construct a simple us versus them campaigns have become somehow comfortable but uncomfortable for others. In Africa specifically, the long-delayed fruits of post-independence economic sufficiency across the continent and carelessness ethos of political governance across many countries conspire to consign many people into endless destitution. Young African men are now auctioning their lives to fight in European war fronts as gainful employment. There are many lives of the hungry and many lives of the angry. Our vision and my vision as UMP is entwined in all of that. Here at home, sins of poor South Africans chasing away other equally poor Africans are freshly carved in our collective consciousness. For many Africans, these images are still difficult to understand or explain. The difficulty comes when one sees that all these people are poor Africans, both South African and undocumented foreign nationals from Africa, are forced into contests and hand-to-mouth survival, all these groups. In our pursuit of vision as a university, we want to engage with that. We want to have stories with that. We see needless deaths in high seas, as we saw in Spain recently, as wave upon wave, undeterred Africans are risking illegal border crossings into Europe. As one Somalian poet, Wasan Shah, wrote, "No one leaves home unless home is the mouth of a shark." All these Africans carry an ever-present fear that the West might still be inevitable, including Africans that are left behind. Now, for us as a university, an African university, a future-fit African university, a university of the rising sun, the University of Mpumalanga, we are alive to all these contradictions, uncertainties, and even possible solutions. Hence our 10 values. They are a testament that we indeed acknowledge the task of building a sustainable and relevant education where our curriculum, research, and engagements provide tangible solutions. Such education should be at the same time deepening pursuit for inclusivity, collaborations, and empathetic humanness. Don't get me wrong, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I'm quite aware of common views that exist that universities and the post-basic education sector have one primary purpose of jobs and creating employment. This sharply is focused, a view, also conceals many human development needs, problems, aspirations, which cannot be resolved neatly with the idea of just only jobs. Let us think of this for a moment. Over 80% of UMP students are funded through NSFAS. This means that their parents barely make enough to sustain their families because their salaries are insufficient to fund their higher education. It therefore becomes clear that to most students, the high expectations are attached to their graduations. They walk this graduation stage with that hope. They are collectively expected to contribute to the growing pool of skilled population ushered into the working world. A wealth of creation, so we think, but that becomes less, so we experience. They are expected to return a service as political government leaders in the country where industrialization and related markets have slowed down significantly. The data on youth unemployment says this increasingly loudly, and perhaps we do not hear it clearly because many other equally urgent economic demands confront many parents. Nationally, you know these stats, ladies and gentlemen. Unemployment is approximately 60.9% and 40.6% for those between 15 and 24 and 25 and 34 respectively. I mean, those who have given up looking for jobs in this age range, we know about this through Stats South Africa. Now, let's come back home to the province of Mpumalanga. Compared to other provinces, youth unemployment in this first quarter of 2026 in the Mpumalanga province sits just below the Eastern Cape and Northwest comparatively, though who are larger provinces than our province here. So in essence, youth-wise, we're the poorest in terms of ushering jobs. The university is alive to this. The youth are approximately 58% of the total unemployed population in the province. For better context on what this data means, one needs to look at the Mpumalanga's comparatively smaller population size and its substantial mineral wealth. It doesn't match, eh? Yet many youths cannot be absorbed into jobs. Still, this kind of information does not account for the mental health struggles and other sociological problems experienced by these young people. And in this situation, as we get alive and want to craft and have been crafting, learning from my predecessor, what happens really to many other similarly funded NFSAs and TVET students in other 25 public universities and 50 public TVETs after graduation? This reality tells me that the quality of human beings and citizens that we graduate at UMP becomes important because of the values they carry to the world. While we train them for jobs and entrepreneurship, we also aim for a human being who seeks excellence in their work relations through innovation, strives to act with integrity and empathy in acknowledgement of diversity. I believe a future-fit transformation is possible. Starting now, though, not in the future. That's what we're looking at, to aim for these graduate attributes that we pride ourselves in, that a greater set of human virtues of employment that is excellent and with integrity shall realize. For me, such a student represents the spirit of the preamble of a constitution. They reap the fruits of the struggle through which UMP emerged. As they pursue education at UMP. Hence, my students are at the center of my vision. This is where the story of my work and experiences as a leader since I joined UMP finds voice. My ethos, my people, they matter, our human capital. As the Vice-Chancellor, my vision is built within all of this, and it is to build a university that's recognized for transforming lives through knowledge. We will focus our collective efforts on advancing human development, driving digital innovation, promoting environmental sustainability, strengthening food security and biodiversity conservation, cultivating ethical leadership, and achieving research excellence with global impact. And you will have seen as you possibly drove through this hall how biodiverse we are. If you miss some of the animals that we live with on this campus, bad luck. You may possibly see them and engage with some snakes as you leave. But within that, through multidisciplinary scholarship and multidisciplinary species that we live with, innovation and partnerships are very important for us. We want as a university to ensure that our university remains a powerful force for social justice, economic development, and sustainable futures for our communities and our country and the continent. Chancellor, at UMP, we are preparing our students to lead in a rapidly evolving global economy. Through strategic partnerships with universities, the vice-chancellors of whom are seated here, the research councils, the COOs, some of whom are seated and over there, and the leading institutions in South Africa and internationally, we are advancing, indeed, AI, digital innovation, hydrogen technologies, and global work-integrated learning. Our goal is to equip graduates not only for today's jobs, but to drive Africa's innovation and compete confidently on the global stage. That's where we intertwine with the transformation agenda. I am reminded of a profound expression that describes the process of transforming our justice system, Chief, Madam. Reminded by the Deputy Minister, Andrew Snell, in his recent address just last week here at UMP. It says, "The rising sun does not banish or replace the dark night by declaration." Put simply, it talks of coexistence. It talks of being conscious of the context. For me, this says that the shift from night to day is more like a beautiful conspiracy, a life-giving collaboration in which all complex human experiences are laid bare, transacted even through pain, and then even renewed. As the dark quietly concedes to the sun, so do we rise to the beauty of the new life. Even when things are cloudy, rainy, days as conceal us, as we see, as a country, as a continent, we have to coexist. It is to this end, Chancellor and Chair of Council, that I got UMP to engage through what the UMP community said to me, because we have assigned English official university languages, isiNdebele and isiSwati, asixoxeni, asixoxisaneni. I'm at the beginning of that journey, though, as a VC of UMP, to get us to engage. Yesterday, the chair of the portfolio committee made reference to this, but I thought, you know what, he's plagiarizing me, this man. He may be a chair of this engagement that we are at yesterday, but he plagiarizes quite badly. And as a Yoruba proverb says, even the diviner consults the oracle every few days. They don't rely on themselves. I engage, I dialogue, I talk. To my staff, to my students, I hug. Alone with myself, I talk. I reflect, I dialogue, get into the car, dialogue, get into the campus, dialogue. This conveys the belief that within all the good priorities that we have, that I'm not going to bore you with, the strategies of the university, the quality of institutional culture is very important for me. Because I want us all collectively, sihambeni bakithi, and strive to uphold and go forward together, having dialogued, having spoken about these things, having nurtured, having struggled, having strifled, and work and shape UMP. Therefore, this is a theme to which I want to return a few times in this story. I'm storytelling still, thanks to Gogo Mangcobo. In the past 4 months, we've enrolled ourselves and rolled out Asixoxisane platforms. This platform continues to evolve into an important university's mechanisms for dialogues. We dialogue as we dialogue, them, me, together, without forgetting the context and the strategies and priorities that Council has set before us. This pursuit stands on the understanding that cultivating a fitting ethos for community is a process. There's no destination. It takes time for rites of learning and unlearning, existing rituals to take hold and to talk to each other. It also means bearing necessary disagreements and uncomfortable truths that we tell each other. And those, for me, are enablers of consensus. Madam Chancellor, my management, when I first got to meet them, I said to them, talk to me the way you want to. Tell me where I'm actually going wrong. Hold me accountable. I went to my students and said the same story. And the reason for that is because I hold people accountable myself and have started doing so. And I expect them to do the same. Unless we hold each other accountable and are truthful and talk to each other about things that are not going right, but also acknowledging that that's going right, we're not going to be able to achieve the lofty, well-written 2030 vision, Chair of Council, that you so much love. It stays in Asixoxisaneni. Yet, because my task is necessary that as the custodian of transformation at UMP stands as it stands, Chair, your 2030 strategic plan may not at surface value reflect what I'm talking about, but in ekuxoxisaneni kwethu sixoxisane, that's what we actually are doing. We reflect on a number of things. It demands continually conscious innovation of curriculum, relevant teaching and learning, relevant research, adequately socially responsive, and engaging with communities. Communities of this university, of this region, of this province, of this SADC, of this Africa, of the public sector, to ensure social cohesion. For us to actually go about and say, now we've achieved research excellence, have we engaged much about it? This year we've graduated an inspirational number of students. I'm not going to bore you about that, but want to tell you that we've moved from 1 PhD student to 11 the following year. It may seem like it's small for universities like Puleng Linkabulas, but it's huge in percentages. These numbers speak to me differently, though. They say something more about the importance of statistical data and of where are these graduates going. They tell me that even with UMP's notable contributions to strengthening the education of women for economic empowerment, such gains are ominously shadowed by persistently growing cases of gender-based violence and femicide nationally. Here sits a bigger strategic objective for asixoxeni madoda kithi, bantu bakithi, sixoxisane, around transformation, not only in the teaching and learning, not only in the research engagements, but only in how we lead our people. As my executive management seated here, lovely, are expected to do. And with this, I am proud to say we actually even have a minister here who's a family member of part of what we are going to launch, cognizant of the GBV challenges and the scourge. We are to launch a Noguthula Similane Center for Gender and Intersectional Studies. I know the Chair of Council said, but I haven't approved that. As you will later hear, this launch of this center coincides with the inaugural memorial lectures that shall happen, and because we're cognizant of we cannot be waiting for Council to approve the center before we start working on GBVF issues, before we start dialoguing about them, before we deepen the understandings, before we actually say, Prof. Mashudu, let's transform the curriculum and engagements. And therefore, we're sensitive to the context. We value governance, we apply governance, but we actually have got to do that as well. This is why, amongst other, and within the challenges that women face, it was not me, but it was my men that I love so much of this university that we together ushered a maiden UMP Men's Day, where we celebrated our men, where we said men can cry, where we said men do feel, men hurt, men could be listened to too. Could it be that the GBVF that we see is because we don't create these spaces? And I got my UMP men to say, this shall be an annual event where we dialogue. Let's dialogue. In dialoguing, let's look at what the Chair of Council is going to actually whip us when we don't do the strategic objectives and prescripts as he expects. But within that, there's exactly what we're doing, Chair. It is not counter to the focus on women that I've just spoken about as GBV, but it is intertwined. How often do we get to speak to our boys? How often do we get to speak to our men? For them to know how we feel. I say, therefore, a future with me in these next 4 years. Our UMP community and society must begin to listen, to learn from listening. Learning to understand, though, not just to listen. So events such as the one that we had, the Men's Day, which was actually done by all, my men were actually full in this hall. And I fell in love with all of them and felt very polygamous. Polyandra, no. Puleng will say, no, that's not the right way. But with all of that, there's increase of mental health problems, the factors that are associated with GBVF. And have we begun as researchers, Prof. Struble, to look into how they're intertwined and how we could find solutions? Within UMP, looking at the next part of my speech, is to say we place our university to be strengthened by the curriculum that's look at not just strategic partnerships to which I've made reference, but to have research hubs, research chairs, becoming research hubs, coming up with research institutes. The first step was establishing a hub of research excellence with the recently established chair of bilateral research chair in sustainable and resilience food systems. Now I'm looking at food security. And therefore, it is within that context that the second and food-related sustainability that we look at, because we do get hungry, UMP stepped into a strategic partnership with the Mpumalanga government, being supported by our Honorable Premier. He opened his purse and gave us 50 million rand. Thanks, Premier. For this project that I want to briefly talk about, which is very much intertwined within our strategies. The UMP School of Agriculture has entered a collaboration with Professor Zhang, a student of eminent Yuan Longping, renowned father of hybrid rice. Some of you may say, what, rice? But it is the Asian countries that approached us and they say, we're battling with rice here. We want you, UMP, to lead processes of exporting rice, not importing rice, but exporting rice to our continent. Therefore, this technology bears, the one that I've made reference to as I try to skip, my speech is longer than anticipated, that 20 years of success, it has demonstrated that UMP stands become major actors in the rice exports in the region into the future. This initiative, now I want to give you these numbers because I want you to remember them when they happen. The project proposes training over 200,000 new generation of agricultural specialists, equipped cutting-edge cultivation techniques, but also do so not only on rice, but on maize, on production and sorghum, and vegetable systems, because we are alert to the fact that this is a university that's within a continent that is almost starving. And of course, the focus for total production will win the value of 40.3 billion rand annually when it's ultimately getting to its fruition. We look forward to contribute in this fashion by having just a little less than 400,000 jobs created out of this. By not running to governments, nor to other organizations, but us here internally creating it through these partnerships that we wanting to have. And within that, the DVC Teaching and Learning has not shied away from responding to this question that I'm putting to the audience. Hence, the current curriculum transformation initiatives that we're seeing through the scholarship of teaching. These approaches that we're seeing, the practices, the kinds of assessment, the overall student learning and supporting are bearing fruit. Chancellor, you probably may want to know that I suspect, so I'm not quite sure, Prof. Patterson may dispute this. UMP leads in terms of the number of students that we graduate. Statistically, don't look at our numbers, but we are 80%, over 80%, the lowest that we've had. This is why it is important to be grounded in these engagements, for us to know who out there needs what we have here. What do we need here that's needed out there? The poetry of African proverbs and idioms and arguments, African concepts presented, have always reminded me why storytelling remains essential to how Africans know our place in the world, because we're currently here. And therefore, as I move towards the end of my speech, realizing that this is taking longer, I want to concentrate to the future strategic initiatives. Because so does the storytelling that I'm here on, continuing. I go back to where I began. It is the quality of our curriculum and strategic engagements for research that will keep us relevant all the time. And in the next year, we are aiming to launch professional market industry aligned academic programs that shall continue to us being the first consumers of what we produce. We are actually part of that. But currently, the program development and accreditation processes that will ensure that as a comprehensive university, we articulate from higher education to PhDs, higher certificates to PhDs, and in particular, we will be soon launching the Higher Certificate in Emergency Medical Care, EMC, and the Bachelor of Science in Dietetics and Nutrition and Bachelor of Nursing. I must also observe that funding support, shrinking and squeezing as it is, we're working hard on that stream income. And we start from within here by being consumers of what we produce and producers of what we consume. And at the center of these, of course, are engagements led by Prof. Meyiwa, for instance. These partnerships and initiatives present opportunities that are manifold, the dialogues that we have. This story is coming to a close, at least for now. It shall continue in the next 4 years. Chancellor, allow me to share what's in the pipeline just briefly. That we are envisaging not just only the Inaugural Milani. I'm not quite sure if some of you know who she was. Let me just fill you in. South Africans largely don't know their histories. She was a fighter who refused to let go of this province, an MK, not MK party, Honorable Msezane, but an MK who experienced gender-based violence and was stripped bare of her dignity. The Nocturus Milani Center shall be attending to that, and the chair, ultimately. We envisage tourism future centers because we are a province. That's about that. That bridges academic learning and industry practice, preparing our students with digital entrepreneurial and professional skills that we shall be consuming ourselves. We pity the travel agencies, they shall get poor soon when we get to do this, when we have our tourism clinics where students get to have that. We've started these thoughts and conversations. And within that, we're cognizant of the fact that there's what we call the missing middle. Hence, UMP is in the process of instituting a fund to directly address the missing middle, South Africa's critical equity gap, that actually will move between being missing middle to an NSFAS to back and create a lot of confusion. Yet too little independent finance is availed. I acknowledge what other universities actually do about this. As I close, is this the third time that I say so? This story is just an episode of a story that continues to be written, of a story that continues to be engaged with. As I and all of you walk with me, talk with me, listen to me, reflect with me, talk again, listen, unfold new chapters, let us be reminded that there are moments we'll get weary, we'll get annoyed, we'll get impatient. And therefore, let me pray and say, asixoxisaneni, asixoxeni, let us remain present, perhaps pause for a moment, and when in doubt, but still remain committed to UMP, present the task that we are given to have a better UMP, a better South Africa, a better SADC, a better Africa. And while the past is always a helpful companion, let us be reminded, as one philosopher